Hi, my name is Jillian, and I'm doing my presentation on the 1966 flood of the Arno River in Florence, Italy. Located in the Tuscany region of northern Italy, the Arno River is situated in Florence, Italy. It is about 150 miles long. It flows from the Mount Volturno Hills and the Apennine Mountains to the Ligurian Sea about 7 miles from Pisa. This river is primarily used for irrigation, while 20 miles of it is actually used for navigation purposes. The highest flows of the river usually occur in the spring and autumn when rainfall in the Apennines is at its greatest. In 1966, the rainfall in the Apennines led to the high runoffs and river discharges. Since Italy has very narrow walk and roadways, streets were flooded quickly, making a channel for water to move quickly and greatly through the city. However, the bridges in the city hindered the river flow, which caused the water to pour over the floodplains. Most everyone in Florence is old enough to remember this event, and many say it's Florence's most devastating natural disaster of modern times. The amount of rainfall in the 24 hours between November 3rd and 4th, 1966 reached over 8 inches, causing the Arno River to reach 11 meters. Abnormal climatic conditions of October causing specific thermal and hydrometric characteristics of air masses, together with accidental causes occurring during the development of the events. 3 causes assumed great importance during this flood. The first was the unexpected development and the sudden motion of the North Atlantic cyclone that transformed the high-pressure zones in the north into 2 dangerous engines for the cold and hot air. The second was the presence in the Mediterranean region of a high-level cold air mass over the hot air on the land surface just at the moment when it passed over the Italian peninsula. The third and main one was the orientation of the wind at the surface and in the high atmosphere in conjunction with the Italian mountains. The exceptionality of the meteorological phenomena was the simultaneous combination of the events described. In September, but mainly in October, in many regions where the flood event occurred in November, the precipitation was exceptionally intense. Persistent rainfall over wide areas of the territory reduced soil storage capacity and the aquifer receptiveness. During the month of September, over 100 millimeters of rain fell over the Apennines and in the Arno catchment area. In October, extraordinary rainfall events and heavy showers occurred in many parts of Italy. In general, the rain poured down everywhere for more than 10 consecutive days, with remarkable but not exceptional daily values. The heavy precipitation led to the exceptional peak discharges in many tributaries of the Arno River. When the heavy rainstorms occurred, the river conditions were already critical. All the rivers were characterized by high discharges, which produced catastrophic effects, including levee failure and floods. The effects of the heavy rainfall on November 3rd and 4th on a saturated soil and the deterioration and degradation of the slope enhanced the quick transfer of water and sediments. Before being swept away, the hydrometer in Florence recorded almost 9 meters, but the water level has been estimated at 11 meters. About 11.5 square miles of Florence was flooded, with the water level reaching 5.2 meters in some points of town. The artistic heritage was heavily damaged, including 1.3 million volumes of the National Library, a third of their collection destroyed. 6,000 volumes and documents, along with 55 illuminated manuscripts, were damaged in the Opera del Duomo. 40% of the state archives were damaged, including property and financial records, birth, marriage, and death certificates, judicial and administrative documents, and police records. 1,500 works of art were either lost or destroyed. Many consider the greatest loss to be the painted wood crucifix by Giovanni Cimabue, the father of the Florentine painting, in the Santa Croce Museum, where the water had rose 13 feet. The heavy wooden crucifix, as seen on the left, had taken on so much water that it had grown 3 inches and doubled its weight. The wood cracked and paint chips floated out in the water. When it was removed, the cracks widened, mold grew, and the paint continued to flake off. It was years before the cross had shrunk down to its original size. The picture on the right is the crucifix in 2014. This artwork became the symbol of both the tragedy of the flood and the rebirth of the city after the waters receded. All in all, there were 17 casualties and 18,000 people lost their jobs. The Arno was put on trial, with the main charges including the inadequate structural mitigation measures, the modification of the longitudinal profile due to sediment mining, deforestation, the interruption of the works on the channel bypass upstream of Pisa, and the non-realization of the reservoir on the Sive River basin. Many people in Florence are asking themselves, what is the city doing to prevent another tragedy like this from happening again? In 2016, there were debates going on about the building of floodgates along the Arno River that would be on private property and whether the city had control over those buildings or not. While this is still in debate, many believe that there should be floodgates in measure to help prevent another tragedy like this from happening again. The picture on the right shows the high water lines in one of Florence's squares from the Arno flood, the one measuring about 13 feet. The Arno flooded in catastrophic manner 8 times since 1333, at a rate of about 1 a century. Minor floods occur frequently, about 13 times in the last 20 years. Leonardo da Vinci believed that the Arno River could be tamed, but complex bureaucracy prevented any action, and by the time city government approved his plan, he had moved on to something else. As one New York Times reporter said, the Arno has always been a quick-tempered river, and the story of its rages and Italy's failures to deal with them is engraved in Florence's walls.